Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's December the 3rd. This will be our chart listing for the day. And it was all downhill today, basically from the get-go. We had a little bit of a bounce here early during the overnight, and then once we got into pretty much after 6:30, it was all downhill, and it accelerated. I was playing this blue channel early, but you notice there's a red or brown one here that kind of accelerated down later in the day. Um, and it's probably just a shorter term one inside this one, but it did overshoot down here quite a bit. So um, there wasn't much worth really trading down here because we'd moved so low. It was so late in the day. I think after this trade right here, I don't think I would have taken many more of them. So um, anyway, if you started early this morning, you could have been done. I mean, there's 4 or 5 trades in just this one little short-term channel working down here. I did get several emails from people saying how the light's starting to click, but and that's great. And a couple of them saw this channel, so that's really good. I will say, generally, once you recognize a strong trend and you get on board with the trend, it's definitely easier to trade that way. It's much easier than to trade that kind of day than to trade a day where it does this all day straight across here. Like this right here, even though this is pretty much a downward bias all day, it's just more sideways. And when you get them where they're selling off like this, it's just a great day. And when you get one like this, you know, getting a trade, try to get a runner going and hang on for dear life and just let it go as long as you can. So, um, but really, we had a move down, a correction, and then another move down. I didn't measure these, but if you're looking, if you're trading and looking for a measured move, I would have measured that first. Brought it over here, and you can see we went a little bit further than that, but that would have kept you in the game all the way to here, at least to this lower trend channel line. So, and then there's some other shorter term ones in there you could trade as well, or you could measure as well and use. Um, I would have looked at this one and then here. You can see that got you pretty much to right there to the low of the day. And then there's this one and here. We didn't quite make that one, and then you see we recovered after that. So, um, but anyway, just something to think about. I like to show that to people. But let's back out and talk about the trades. First trade I saw was right here. We had a break of the we got a trend line working down here. We had a break, and this is notice this. We're coming down. We get a first entry, pull back. There's a failed second entry right there, so you want to enter on that one for sure. That's a quick, easy scalp, and then it bounces. But when it turns down off that trend line, um, turns down right there. You probably wouldn't have had that trend line to be honest. Um, so unless you're really good at this, I mean, I drew it through those 3 lines, um, and you also could have drawn it down here, and you can see that right there. And then you would have wanted to move it up once you figured out it's off the highs up here. But generally, I'll start with the closes. So, but you could also had to be concerned about this as a channel. And you can see there's some matching highs right there. Okay, sorry, I had a slight interruption there, but we were talking about this setup here. This is also a little congestion area, a little trading range. And notice what happens. You got this high and you tested it once, you tested it twice. You're having to get in this one all at the very low here, but that's a failed, you could treat that like a failed second entry long. Um, it's a huge signal bar. What I would definitely say here is that wait on it to break lower and then drop a limit order here. But sometimes if you do that, notice how this took off. Sometimes it'll, when it's that bearish, it will just take on off. So you had to be, you had to be, um, well, you didn't really have to be that quick because it dropped down and came back uh, pretty quickly. So, but I like using a limit order here. But sometimes you're better off just to put your stop there, sell stop, and be done with it. You just never know. So, but the problem is this is a huge bar. It's, you know, you can't get in it with 2 points. So I definitely recommend letting it break lower and then dropping a limit order in here and getting short that way. And you know, the odds are we're going lower because you got a trend line working down here, and that's the first break of it. So that's, you know, it's really, actually you could have gone long here, and I probably should circle that one green because it is a failed second entry short, but you're not really looking for prices to go up. But there's some, you know, arguments for that. It's a second entry long as well, so there's some arguments for going long there. But if you saw that trend line, I don't think it's worth risking, but I'm going to go ahead and mark it in green because it is a failed second entry short, and it would have worked easily. You could have gotten a couple of points out of that thing. So, but I like the first short for sure because it's a second entry, and then you could have treated that like a failed second entry short and gone long there, even though it's really not a failed second entry short because you had more than enough to get a scalp out of that. You could still treat it like one. The main thing is you could also treat it like a little trading range, and you're getting in at the very low, even though that's a bigger, even though you're able to get in the very low, that's a bigger bar than I would like you know, risk with a stop. There's still some reasons to take that long. So if you took it, I'm okay with it. I'm gonna call it aggressive. I think the better two trades are the shorts there. And then you got a little hidden second entry short here, and you got a double top and a chance to get short right there, and it is a breakout pullback short. I didn't mark it because I do not like the signal bars, and there's too much overlap there. Again, there's some reasons to, um, you know, say, hey, if you want to be really aggressive, there's some reasons to argue for taking that trade. So I'm going to mark it green, but I don't like it. I'd tell you to stay clear of it. There's a hidden second entry. You got a little double top with matching highs with a failed break higher, but that bar ended perfectly neutral almost, and there's several of them stacked up side by side. So I think it's risky, and you've already got a break in a new low. Although there is enough room to get out before you get here, and a lot of times you'll get two legs to a new low, but you couldn't get a full leg out of this one because it found its support there. Um, I didn't like going long here either because I don't like that signal bar. We're way away from the EMA, but you're still inside this channel, and you might push on down to get this move equal to this bar. Um, so you got to be careful there. So I didn't mark it for that reason. And you do get a second entry long here, but you're right into that EMA. And again, I think it's risky. It does come off the trend line, but I don't like the signal bar. I don't like, you know, you want to wait on, hope, you know, my thought was you'll probably get a failed second entry short here in a minute when you get above this EMA, and then you can go long, but it never comes. It doesn't come till here. And now you've had a test of this support area across here, and it acted as resistance. And at that point, I still wasn't sure the trend line wasn't here. And you see, some people were concerned about that because obviously a lot of people exited right there. But in the end, I think it's up here. If I'd have known for sure it was up here, I might risk that one as a failed second entry short. But otherwise, I don't think I would. So I'll go ahead and give that one a green one as well. But again, I think it's pretty risky. So you can see by 8 o'clock before the regular open, you already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible trades, and all of them would have been good trades. But I do like going short here because that confirmed that trend line for sure. And you get a nice bearish bar. It's a failed break back above this little support resistance line right across here. Um, but mainly it's because you had your break, you knew high, and you're coming right off that trend line right there, and you get a nice bearish bar. So that's a no-brainer there. There's a second entry short here, um, but I think you're better off to wait again to see if you get a failed second entry short, which comes here, and then you're right into that support. You're right, that's not a good place to enter. It's not a very good setup. But guess what? You get a second entry right here, and it's right off where you would expect it to be if you drew this trend line off those swings and pulled it up here. It's right where you would expect it to be. It's a pullback to test this little double bottom area. It's not a perfect signal bar, but the market's got a definite downward bias, and you just came off the trend line, and the others. There is a midline right here, but you got enough room to get out there too. That's another reason not to take that one. But if we're headed to the other side, which is a very high possibility, it's going to be way down here where it bounced before, and you might get a runner here. So then it pulls back right here. Notice this is a new high, pulls back. There's a breakout pullback short right here, but again, that's into a triple bottom. You don't want to take that. Just sit tight, and you get your failed second entry long right here, and look at that. You don't need to wait on this bar here, but you could have gone short there too, but this is the signal bar. You go short right below it. Quick, easy move. Then you come back to the trend line again. This is a first entry. There's a trend line running up through there. But notice what happens. It breaks below and pulls back, and it tests this trend line. But notice what happened here. We shot through this midline on the blue midline, and we pulled back and tested. And it's the EMA. So there's like multiple resistance areas there. That's a big bearish bar. You might let this one break lower and drop a limit order in, but I wouldn't risk it. I'm going to hang in there. And see if I can't get. I'm just going to use a stop. I'm not going to risk trying to get in there with a limit order. Although, if you want to be a little more conservative, you probably should. And notice there's a little bit of congestion there too, and it's a failed break higher. There's also a failed break lower, and it comes back and tests it. So I like going short right there. It's into the short to the low of the day. But if you see this bigger channel, we're probably headed down here to test the low of it. So I'm okay going short on that one. Once we get the break here, we're so close there. I don't think that one's worth waiting. I don't think it's worth risking a first entry here. Although this does look a whole lot like this, and so it's almost a repeat pattern. The only difference is you had all this resistance, this trend line, the midline, the EMA, and you don't really have all that here. So I don't think you want to risk it. You get the break here and a move to a new low, and then it looks like it's going to correct. It's tempting to go long here, but we're turning sideways. And so I really don't like going long there. There is a failed second entry short, so again, there's some reasons to argue a trap, and so if you want to be aggressive, maybe. But I think you're better off to wait and see if you can't get a better entry. And guess what? It comes up here, and you get this double top, and it just kind of confirms that this is a trading range. And so I like going short there, and then I like this one for sure going long. Because now we've tested this area multiple times across here, and notice how it went down. It pulls back. It gives you a very bearish looking bar, and you just definitely don't want to be going short into all that support across there. And it ticks lower and reverses instantly. I like that one. It's a little aggressive, but I like it. Just go long on that one. And now you figure we're probably, if we keep going here, we're probably headed back up to the trend line, the main trend line. And we break out, we pull back. You want to try to treat this, if prices would have turned back down right there, I probably would have treated this like a failed second entry or a failed breakout above this, out of this range. But it started stacking up across there. So you don't want to go short out of that. It just kind of goes sideways. It would have worked, but I don't think, again, you want to risk it. And then you finally get a long right here. Let me move this out of the way. But notice what happens. You get a pullback first entry, pullback. There's a second entry, but it's crawling up that EMA, and this makes you a little lower high. So it's a second entry count coming from the low, and it's a second entry counting off the high. So there's a couple of different reasons. If you want to be aggressive, it's a breakout pullback long, and we're probably headed up here. And anyway, it looked like we weren't going to make a new high, and it was going to try to go lower, and it couldn't. And so you're making all higher lows and higher highs there. We didn't quite make higher highs here, but that gave you the pullback for the second entry counting off the low. So if you want to be aggressive, I could see arguments for going long there. I'd say probably skip that one too, but I'm going to mark it green because there's some of you that want to take those kind of trades. The better one's to wait up here. And notice what happens. We get this little bitty doji. It went higher first and then turned down. So just have a stop ready there. We're a little ways away from the EMA. You got two legs up. You got a break of this and a new high. But the main thing is just turn it down right there. Just go short. And then it pulls back and gives you a second entry. So now you got another double test. So you really know this trend line is really good now. So I'm saying go short there. And then it pulls back again. And this is one of those where I'd probably add on here. And I'd definitely add on here when it gives you that failed second entry long. And that's because that's what traps everybody. And you know they're trapped because look at it go. Boom. It takes off. And it pulls back. And you should have had that trend line off this side and pulled it over. And when we turn down right off of it, I like going short there. Just simply because you figure we're headed down in the bigger pattern again. So pulls back. I don't like, you get a break here, and I don't have my little short-term trend line on there. Get a break there. That's your first break of this little trend line. And it tries to go higher. That's not a very good signal bar, and you don't have a retest attempt. But when it tries to go higher there and instantly turns down, just go short right there. This thing has been very weak. You're looking for reasons to get short by this time, and there's a good chance we're headed all the way down to here. I showed you the measured moves earlier. So this is, you definitely want to go short right there. And while you don't know that it's going to head all the way down on this one, I figured we'd probably get another correction or something because we do have a break right here. And maybe you can make an argument there's probably a little bigger pattern here, like so. And so it is off of that trend line. I don't think you needed this one, and it doesn't really fit real well on the other side. You can see, but there's no denying there's something going on there. Look what happened when we came back to it again. So I'm going to leave it on there. I was looking at it and following that earlier. I'm going to give it a little different color here. Yeah, we don't want to make it that color. You can't see it. We'll just make it purple looking. So anyway, another reason to go short right there. Then we come back to it here. We get a little close outside, and notice what happens. We get a new low, and it corrects. So I think there's some validity to that trend line, although I couldn't really make it. But none of these really fit well on the low side, and the reason is because the market is so it's so weak today. People are worried about the fact that the Fed keeps talking about raising interest rates. So, if they do, it's probably going to affect the market, and we could see a big correction. But don't worry about all that. Just trade what you see. So, but anyway, you get the break. It comes back. There's a second entry short right here. Actually, it's right here, but this is the first break of the trend line, so you're not real interested until here. And let me get this out of the way. And I don't like the signal bar here. So, but then you get that little trap where it turns back up and you get a nice bearish bar. And then it turns back up again and you get a failed second entry long. So if you're still in this trade, it's one of those where I like to add on and look at it go. So, but if you didn't enter one, you want to enter the other one. So it's a little double setup right there. And then we bounce. There's a failed second entry short right here. But notice all the dojis, and we're kind of flattening out again. There seems to be some support across here, but that would give you a little more reason to think about going long. But I just think you're better off to wait, because we could turn around and go back up to the trend line again, especially the fact that we pushed through the EMA, and that's right at the EMA. So you really don't want to go long right into that either. So there's a couple different reasons just to say, hey, let's skip that one. And then it turns down here, which sets the red or brown looking channel. This is getting kind of messy here, but I don't think there's enough. There is a double top there, and that is a bearish bar. So again, I probably could make that one green. There's some reasons to consider that trade, but I think it's risky, the fact that we push through that EMA. Generally, you're going to pull back and test it before you go higher, but we come back and it doesn't really test it. It just pushes on through, pulls back and tests it from the other side, and this is a big downtrend, so you definitely want to go short there, because we didn't get down here this time, so we're going to make another run at it. And it's close here, having enough room to get out, so that might make you a little leery of that one. If you didn't take that one, it's okay. But if you see what's happening, look how it pushed right through the EMA, pulls back, tests that, it shoots right through the midline, pulls back, tests that. And look how big that big bearish bar that went higher first and then turns down. Because what's happening is people are looking at this support and they're thinking they're going to buy a low, and they don't see the big picture, and they get trapped and look at it go, and boom. So there were a lot of people probably jumping in and hanging on to a lot of longs, thinking they're going to catch a bottom here, and they just get run out of town. And that's what we want, because we want to ride out of town with them, except we want to be picking up their gold nuggets as they leave them on the ground while they're running, so to speak. So but this is a big move down. It does come back to the trend line here, but we've moved so far down, and we're so close to where the lower trend line should be. I don't think you want to risk getting short in there. It does come back right here, and it tests this midline, which we got off of these couple of swings here. And so I like going short there. And really what happened was the market just kind of readjusted and got steeper here. The sell-off did. There was some news around 9 o'clock that really it didn't really cause the market to sell off a whole lot, but in the end, I guess they didn't like it, or for whatever reason. So, and that's the Fed talking, and there was there was another high volatility news at 9, but basically, Yellen made some comments or something, and evidently the market didn't like it. That came out at 9. So I did like this one because it's kind of a repeat pattern that we saw a couple of times down through here. It's the first break. When you've been selling off this hard and you get your first break of a trend line, you're going to at least come back and try to test that again. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if we bounced here, but there's enough room to get out before we got to this main lower trend line. But it just went right on through again. And down here, this is a new high. There's actually a failed second entry long right here, but by that time you've bounced off this lower trend line on the new trend line, so I just don't think you want to risk it. There's also some overlap right there. There's some reasons to think about it, but that late in the day, so this is pretty much the last trade I think you can take for the day. But this market's really, really weak. And on a failed second entry long, after 2 measured, there's one leg and a correction, another measured leg with a couple of legs in it. And so, I might as well mark it green. I'm going to just tell you, I wouldn't take that trade that late in the day. But there's some reasons to consider it. And if that's the only trading I could do, I might consider that trade. But that late in the day, having moved that far down, I'd be very leery of it. So, but I will make it green because, aggressive trader may take it, may want to take it. So, but that's pretty much it for today. A lot of trades today. I mean, literally, you could have come in today before the open and you would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really great trades that moved from 2087 or so down to 2064. I mean, all on one move. And this is just, remember those key entry points. These two trades would have been 3 trades spectacular. So, if you only caught 1 or 2 of them, you could have had a really big day. And I did get some notes from people saying, hey, they just had a spectacular day. But this is the kind of days we like to get where you get a big sell off. And when you do, if it just keeps going and keeps going, be careful about your entry, but get as much of it as you can, because we don't always get days like this. When we get them, we like to take advantage of them. So, but anyway, I think that's enough for today. It's almost 30 minutes worth. There was something here for everybody today, really. And hopefully you recognize this. The biggest thing that amateur traders do is they try to buy in a downtrend like this. They try buying all day long, and they end up losing. And then finally, we'll get down here late in the day, and they'll say, enough of that, I'm going to start selling. And they start selling, and then it rallies. That's what happens. They want to sell low. They want to see they want to see the market move down real hard to get the confidence to go short, but that's when it's going to bounce. You got to get the confidence to sell on the bounces. You got to do it just the opposite. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not sure. I know I keep saying I'm going to start doing chart lessons on Fridays. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one tomorrow. I've got some other stuff going on, and I want to leave early. But if I'm here, if the weather's bad and I'm here, I will do one. But if we don't have one tomorrow, you'll know why. It's Friday. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Actually, we may not be back again to do it tomorrow, but if not, we'll be back again to do it Monday. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. If I don't talk to you tomorrow, I'm going to wrap it up for now. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.